Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now, to be totally honest, this is a beer review I didn't think I'd be doing. Remember when I kept going on about Butcombe this and Butcombe that and having a right good rant at them and everything else? Well, the buggers decided to offer me an option of providing me with the keg that was missing. See, must be the power of YouTube, you know what I mean? No, not really. I think probably Butcombe did it because, out of sympathy for how pathetic I am, probably. I don't think basically. Well, I don't think YouTube or me doing reviews and that type of stuff had any influence due to the fact that I didn't even mention it to them. So, and I very much doubt they would know who the hell I am because I'm really kind of quite insignificant in the scheme of the world, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I just think they basically either did it out of sympathy or they just thought, well, hey, we've not maybe kind of acted the way we probably should have, and let's just do the right thing, which is very kind of them. But I did not mention I was using it for buying it for a review or that type of stuff. I just told them that I just didn't receive it when they basically contacted me, and through their kind of correspondence, they did actually apologise and asked me if I wanted to basically, if they sent out a keg, would that help? And I'm like, yeah, would, thank you very much. So what I've actually got here, which the sticker's kind of coming off. Hope to God it doesn't say Butcombe. Just out of curiosity, what is actually underneath this sticker? Because I'm kind of worried now. Because it's not actually just shove a sticker on it and give me something else. That'd be a good one, 2 fingers to me. I would appreciate that, actually, if they did. But just out of curiosity, it is Butcombe Original. Yeah, it's the original cask. So it's still got the original cask on it, right? So, but apparently this is supposed to be a ruby ale. So there you go. So it's called Chris Moose. Anyway, oh God, and it's 4.1%. So it's I'll put all the details down below. But it's a kind of seasonal, kind of Yuletide ale, as they call it. But also what Butcombe did is a kind of an apology for me not receiving this in the initial delivery. They actually gave me an option of, we'd like to give you a pack of beer, as an apology, and asked me what type of beer I wanted. So I just went for the original, because the original was actually not too bad. I quite like the original. I do have a rare breed as well, because I did actually get this and the rare breed one in my original order, which I received the rare breed but not this. So I've gotten a rare breed that will be coming up at some point to review. But yeah, fair play to them. They did put everything right. And I wasn't looking for anything extra. I wasn't looking for anything in return or anything kind of like, oh, well, compensation wise. No, I just wanted the beer that I ordered because I just wanted to do the video. That was the honest thing. And fair play to them. They decided off their own back because I just responded to the email when they asked what was missing. And I replied back and just said, well, this was missing. And then this nice woman basically started to kind of pick up the emails and just basically says, well, if you send you out your thing as quickly as possible, would that resolve the issue? Yes, absolutely it would. And, that type of thing. And then offered me a pack of 8 beers for free, which again, I wasn't looking for. And I did say it was a very kind gesture because again, it was off their own back. I wasn't looking for anything, and fair play to them. So I've got to create a bit of humble pie here because, to be totally honest, I was calling them see you next Tuesday and everything, which of course at the time was quite justified. But yeah, they've kind of doubled back on me and kind of left me look like a chump. But fair play to them, it's off their own back. So yeah, I've got to be honest with them. They did the right thing, and it was off their own back. It was nothing really to do with me. And I very much doubt, even if I did tell them what I was going to use the beer for, I don't think that would have really made any difference anyway. And I would hope not anyway. I think it's the case as though they shouldn't give special treatment to anybody. But treatment they gave me, I hope to God they give everybody on that basis. But yeah, fair play to them. They did the right thing. They did it off their own back. So, well done. Credit where credit's due. And I'm now video back up again, so I'm quite happy. So, shall we crack this in the machine and see what it tastes like? Due to the fact that it's taking quite a period for it to actually arrive, and obviously we didn't realise it was going to arrive. But yeah, fair play to them. So we'll crack it in, and I'll be back in a moment. Right, we're back. It's a lot easier. This is a kind of more normal, kind of traditional 5 litre keg. So there was a non-event, no issues, no problems, no beer pissing everywhere. I just not a big fan of the kind of newer style that Otter Brewery was using, because it was more of a faff. And one of the good things about being in the machine is if things do kind of start going, you can close the lid, or if it starts running and filling at the top of the kind of keg area, then if it starts spilling over, then it just goes down the side and into the kind of water, because there's also water in there, and I always make sure it's sterilised. So I use sterilised solution in the water. So again, because you're working with live beers, it's quite easy to start building up fungus and molds, and I mean, you can turn that into a petri dish like that. And what I was thinking afterwards, that if that had actually happened when it was just, if I had just bought the keg and I didn't have one of these machines, I was just going to drink it from the keg, then that would have made a hell of a mess. I mean, it was a bit of a ball ache even with the machine, but if it was outside the machine, it'd have been an even bigger ball ache. And that's something I just kind of want to highlight, that maybe, hopefully Otter Brewery will get feedback to maybe go to the kind of more traditional, kind of normal style kegs. Because, yeah, although in saying that though, the Otter beer, especially the second one, the Otter Elf, was really fresh, to the point is that my last pint of it was cloudy. The amount of sediment in there and everything else was unbelievable, which is fine. I quite like a live dirty pint, especially if you know it's kind of good quality and everything else, then there's no harm in it. And yeah, it was fine. It was, I quite enjoyed it. It was my last pint, so it wasn't a bad thing. Obviously you've got to watch, because if I tasted anything untoward near the end of that, then of course I wouldn't, because yeah, you start, if it's on the turn and you have a right big cloudy, well, yeah, that damn thing can go through you like lightning, and yeah, you could have a very interesting time the next day, and spending quite a lot of it in the smallest room in the house, Yes, so there you go. But yeah, just to kind of let you know. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll pour this one. I'll switch off the chiller, and I've got a test glass here. Give it a wee bit of gas. Right, I'm going to just see what it's like. Oh, bloody hell. Right, that's kicked off a bit. Not too bad. I actually poured better than what I thought. Right, I'll plonk that there just now, and we'll get this one cracked in, and we'll see what this one's like. Need a wee bit. Might need a wee bit of. Is that something inside the glass? Is that inside the glass? I don't know what that is. But anyway. It's just like that. Right, so not much of a head on it just now. Sometimes that happens. You know. But yeah, it's a kind of, it's supposed to be a ruby ale. There's a kind of redness to it. It's kind of more of a kind of ruby, kind of chestnutty kind of coloured ale. Smell wise, I'm getting malt, maybe a little hint of fruit, but mostly what I'm just getting is very light malt. Not much of an aroma there. So there isn't. But yeah, look at me, look at Jesus. Need a haircut, so I do. Hell, seriously. But I'll wait for the wife to come back. She's going to be back in just 2 weeks. She'll be back, so I'll be able to last till then and that type of stuff. Anyway, she likes cutting my hair. Gives her a chance to get her own back, you know. Because, you know, she can't beat me in a fight and that type of stuff, so at least it gives her a chance to have a dig back at me, you know, so it's quite a good thing. You watched the darts? See, Luke Littler is back in the final. I think the final's actually on tonight, actually, but yeah. So he's back in it. He's in that Van Galen. I'm not a big fan of him. Seriously, ugly big bugger. So yes, he looks like something. He looks like something like a fucking Bond movie, doesn't he? He should be a Bond villain the way he looks there with the braces on, the big baldy head, and the big beer belly. You think, Jesus, you're a looker boy, aren't you? Yeah, this is coming from the oil painting, by the way. You know. Right. So we see what this tastes like. Seeing it's taking a while. Quite funny. Just as I was about to take a sip of that, the little thought just kind of went straight across my brain was, see, after all this hassle, what happens if it was a load of piss? Just flashed up there, just as I was about to put my lips to the glass thinking, all this hassle. What happens if it's a pint of piss? That's what I'm thinking. I hope to God it isn't. No, after everything's all done, including Butcombe with the hassle they probably went through as well. Because obviously they've had 2 shipments, you know, sending me the things out and everything else and that type of stuff. And, you know, but yeah, needless to say, it's actually not too bad. I'll need to get kind of acclimatised to it. But first impressions, quite nice. I'm not really getting anything bitter at the back end. I'm getting some nice malt. I'm getting a little bit of fruit in the mid-tongue. But I need to get acclimatised to see if any of the flavours kind of start to kind of clear up and come through clearer and that. Always at 4.1% is quite a sessionable beer, and it feels that way. Nice mouthfeel, everything else. And first impressions, yeah, this is quite nice. Now this is a lot cheaper than the Otter beer. I think this is about, it's either 22 or 23 pounds actually. So it's under my kind of 25, 26 kind of breaking point, basically, you know. And obviously, compared to the Otter Claws, then if I take this at 23, I'm sure it's closer to 23, so I'll take it as 23, not including delivery. That already makes this £7, no, £8 cheaper than the Otter Claws, and makes this £5 a keg cheaper than the Otter Elf. Which, let's be totally honest, it's nothing to be sniffed at, because at the end of the day, if you're saving £8, well, you can go to the supermarket and spend that £8 on other types of beer or something, or that's a big bit of money off if you're buying, you know, a bottle of whiskey for the festive period, or some wine for the wife, or whatever, the drink and things like that, whatever other poison you need to buy for the festive period. So it all kind of adds up. And of course, obviously, if you're getting a couple in because you're maybe having a sesh with friends or family and things like that, well, that could basically be from a minimum of £10 all the way up to £16 of a saving. So at the end of the day, it makes a difference and it all adds up. As some arsehole of a supermarket used to say, every little counts, you know what I mean? Anyway, I feel dirty saying that. I feel unclean. I should have said that. You're probably all bit, lucky I'm switching off now. Which you're quite right to do. I feel icky giving out with that nonsense. Don't know why I did it. Must be the drink. It's actually quite nice. As I'm getting into it and getting more acclimatised to it, the flavours are obviously different. I'd say that this is probably obviously closer to the Otter Elf than the Otter Claws, but the flavours are different. Whereas I felt the flavours were a wee bit brighter in the Otter Elf. I was almost close to saying Rudolph again. See my bloody brain, it's an arsehole. But stop that, get Rudolph out your head. It's no coming back, he doesn't love you. You know what I mean, that kind of thing. But yeah. But this beer, in comparison, it doesn't have the bright, because I've got to admit the malt flavours were quite bright. The fruit flavours were quite bright. Not in clarity, just basically just felt kind of like slightly kind of fresher than this. But what this does, it just seems to have that, just, especially in the malt, just a couple of extra layers of depth in that kind of malt flavour. The Otter Elf did taste like a very fresh beer. This tastes like a beer that's been conditioned longer. So it has. So it has. And while it does have a fruitiness to it, it does kind of come through to me. I'll need to obviously check up, but there's a couple of hops in there that are kind of standing out a wee bit as part of that kind of slightly kind of edge to it. And overall, this is actually another nice pint. I mean, it really is. It's a shame I don't have them side by side now, because it'd be nice to actually try them side by side, because they're both nice in their own right. They're both very sessionable, but this feels a little bit more darker in the body. You're a little bit more body, and again, just a little couple of extra levels of malt kind of flavours. But doesn't have that brightness and freshness as the other one does, which was obviously very enjoyable and just hit the spot, and everything else is, oh, it was just easy to drink. I wouldn't say this is so easy to drink. It's still very sessionable. I'm not going to lie to you. But I would say it just feels a little bit more depth to it. It seems to be, how would you say, just a more matured and maybe a slightly more rounded beer. You know, I mean, sometimes the case, you know, if you ever, probably the best way to describe it, if you've done home brewing, and one of the great things is, like, once you get the recipe off pat, you know, you get a recipe, it's a good recipe, it works for you and everything else. But what you can do is you can start playing about with the kind of conditioning time, you know, and, you know, especially if you're bottling. If you're bottling, then there's a case as though you can basically condition, you know, at different stages, so you can crack one open at your kind of normal time, but you can let a couple go a wee bit longer and just see how it reacts and everything else. And you will notice that kind of difference in taste. Some flavours are brighter with the earlier ones, whereas, you kind of lose that brightness of certain flavours as it conditions longer. But you start picking up kind of other flavours that you weren't getting on the kind of earlier conditioned ones, And, so you lose the brightness of some flavours, but you pick up kind of additional flavours to a certain degree. And that's the best way to describe it between the two. The thing is, though, with this beer being £5 cheaper, fair play to them. That's one thing I will say to Butcombe. Big difference in size of the brewery between Butcombe and obviously the Otter Brewery, and obviously overheads and purchasing power and everything else makes a hell of a difference. So I'm not going to turn around and say, I see Otter Brewery, bunch of greedy buggers, because I'm sure as the case is, it costs them more to produce their Otter Elf than it does Butcombe to produce this, especially because of the size of the volumes that have been involved. But what I would say is, this is still a damn good beer. And if you factor in the cost of it, then I'm glad I got one. I'm sitting there thinking, I wish I got another one. Do I still have time do I really want to go and order another couple? Is it for personal use, of course, But yeah. I'd say what a difference. I've got to admit, what a difference between the disappointments I've had with the Christmas beers and the bottles. I mean, this is the first year I've done it with the kegs. I've eventually got 3 kegs, which I was planning to do. And I want to watch with them. Every single one's been really, really nice. And that's the biggest standout of all this. That with all this going on and all the kind of palaver and things like that, it's been a heck of a lot more enjoyable, and especially off camera, because remember, it's not a case of me drinking, a beer, enjoying it, and then realise I've only got one or I've only got a couple of bottles. But knowing that I've got still the rest of the keg, and I can enjoy it over the next couple of days. And that's probably been the best part. Not just obviously enjoying it for the video, but just enjoying it in my own personal time. Rather than me buying bottles, carting them back, because I remember these things are, most of them get delivered eventually to you, but but they're getting delivered to you. Whereas if I'm buying the bottles, I'm round all the bloody supermarkets and all the other bollocks looking to see what they've got and buying them and then carting them back and all this bollocks. So it's more of a faff. I'll be totally honest, it's more of a faff me going out to get the bottles, and then I'm reviewing them, and it just seems to be everyone I'm reviewing is just getting worse and worse and worse, and it's just becoming more and more of a disappointment. As you're building up to the Christmas, I'm doing these Christmas ales, the Christmas beers in the bottles, and I'm absolutely bloody sick of them. I'm telling you, there's some of them are so bad that they actually turn you off Christmas. You get to the point of Christmas Day, and it's like, I'm just not in the mood anymore. You're like, and you want to try and do some videos, on Christmas Day and New Year's Day and Hogmanay and things like that. And you're like, I really don't want to suffer any more of these. You kind of like, I just don't really want to. Your mind says, yeah, put out a video because it's Christmas and everything else. It's a special occasion. Put out a video and things like that. But your heart's saying, no, I'm sick of this piss water. And it really is. It's utter piss water. And then this is the first year I've done it on the kegs, and people, when I've had a few kind of viewers in the past saying, oh, kegs were a waste of time, wouldn't touch them, blah, blah, blah. Well, more fool you, because there's no comparison. There's no comparison with the quality and the freshness and everything else. Like I keep saying, they're a different product. Don't think you need one of these, because at the end of the day, you can just buy the keg, put it in the fridge, and then you can just pour it straight from the keg and everything else. So, you don't need one of these. There's benefits to this, but you don't need it. You can just buy the keg and enjoy it. when there's no hardship with that, unless it's the newer kegs, then potentially it could be a bit of a, oh Christ, that's went up the wall, but as long as the wife doesn't know, you'll be alright. Because obviously you're not like stupid like me that you video the bloody thing going up the wall, you know what I mean? Other things like that, But anyway. But this year has been I suppose, a bit of a revelation. There's probably other people sitting there thinking, well, gee, seriously, you took your time getting there, didn't you? You stupid, fair play. People have already come to this kind of epiphany before me, then yeah, fair play to you. But yeah, I would say yes, this Christmas period has been a heck of a lot more enjoyable on camera and off camera. And while I was doing the kind of other drinks, I'll maybe do some more drinks next year. I've got eggnog and some other more Christmas drinks that I'll maybe do next year. But while I was doing these other ones, they were kind of a bit fun, bit of a pain in the backside to kind of film, but they were good fun. But the standouts is basically I've enjoyed the Christmas beers. And I honestly couldn't say that. I can't remember the last Christmas beer in a bottle I've actually enjoyed. I'd even wanted to have another one. Right now, if it has happened, that beer escapes me because I can't remember it. But I'm going back maybe the last 4 or 5 years quite easily. Nothing is a standout. Whereas this year, they've all been a standout to a certain degree. Even with the faff, But yeah. It is. It's really nice. There's a little bit of nuttiness there as well. Just tricky. Again, as you're getting more acclimatised, some of the flavours are starting to come a bit more to the fore. And you're just picking up just little additional flavours with this, just because it just feels like it's been matured a bit longer. It's not as fresh and as bright. Which, trust me, I'm not going to turn around and say the Otter Elf was a bad beer in any way, shape or form. It wasn't. Just a different style of beer. But I enjoyed that brightness. And I liked that freshness. And trust me, it was ticking all the boxes. But the darts final's coming up. And once I've done this video, I get to enjoy a couple of pints of this while watching the darts. And this is a lovely beer to enjoy the darts final with. So, it's like that. Does it taste kind of Christmassy? I suppose to a certain degree it does. It still has that kind of that kind of fruitiness to it. Nothing too heavy in the fruitiness front. Nothing overly rich. Again, it's not a clear kind of fruitiness. We'll break down the flavours in a minute, but it just kind of adds to it, because you get that kind of like your kind of Christmas cake or your Dundee cake or something like that. It's kind of that kind of edge to it, and but without the kind of richness and kind of thick cut of, like, say, kind of Christmas pudding. So it's not a kind of Christmas pudding in a glass, but it is more of a kind of a lighter kind of maybe a Dundee fruitcake or something like that in a glass, but with a really nice mouthfeel. I would probably say the level of sweetness is maybe a little bit more, but not much. I mean, again, neither beers you would ever turn around and say they were sweet, but maybe a little bit more sweetness in this, just a little bit. But yeah, it's a nice beer. So yeah, what I would say is forget your bottled Christmas beers. I think that's probably the best bit of advice from all these reviews that I can actually turn around and say is forget all that. What you really need to kind of go for, if it's viable for you and if you want to, obviously, and it's within your budget. But I would recommend going for the kegs. if you want something at Christmas time on a more kind of festive kind of feel to it, and get one of the kind of festive seasonal. Look to see if your local breweries are doing anything kind of festive or any kind of seasonal beers at that time in kegs, and get yourself some, because I'll be totally honest, it's worth it. Now, I've got to admit, whether it's in the machine or whether it's outside the machine, they're not going to last 3 days kind of max. If you're moving into the kind of fourth day, then the quality of the product is going to go down. So you've got to kind of allow yourself that if you're cracking it open Christmas Eve and you were drinking yourself, so Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, it would cover them 3 days absolutely perfect, and you could have a good swally, and it is equivalent of 10 bottles. There you go. So while it sounds a lot to some, to other people think 10 bottles, you think you're going to last 3 bloody days? Yeah, fair play. So, but yeah, you're going to look at it that way. I mean, 5 litres, what is 5 litres? Well, they'll say, some say 8 pints, some say 9 pints, whatever, and that type of stuff, because apparently, neither of them can do the fucking maths. Breweries, they're all over the place with the easiest and more accurate way, it's the equivalent of 10 500ml bottles. Now, how much you drink will determine how long that will last you, but you've also got to factor in the drinkability of it. It's a better product. It's a lot of them are a lot more sessionable, a lot more drinkable, let's be totally honest. And yeah, if you add that into the kind of mix, then they'll probably last even less than what you think, because you'll be enjoying them so much that you'll actually be drinking a heck of a lot more than what you actually thought, or what you would maybe normally drink. So you've got to kind of factor that in, because there is that enjoyability factor that is in the quality that you just don't really get with the bottles. While you can sit there and sink bottles and you enjoy them and everything else, it's like anything. Your favourite beer in the bottle, but if you can go down to your local pub and drink it and everything else, well, when you look at many you drink in your local pub compared to, and if you actually had the bottle compared to the actual, pint poured at your local pub and compared the two, it's like that almost with these type of things. So shall we break down these flavours? Well, I'm whittering on. Okay, start off with a nice level of malt, and it really is quite a nice kind of level of malt, but it feels there's a couple of little levels there that kind of move onto the mid-tongue and kind of develop a bit. A little bit of grain, but you get this little bit of sweetness, but it feels like kind of dried fruit sweetness. That's what it feels like. Good example is my mum used to make a malt loaf. But what she would do is she wouldn't actually add really any sugar to it. What she would do is she would steep the dried fruit, and she would steep it in water, and then that would allow to draw out the kind of sugars from the dried fruit. And then she would use that water as well as the dried fruit to actually sweeten the loaf, and she wouldn't have to add any sugar at all. And it was a great way of making a kind of a lower calorie kind of a fruit loaf or cake. And it's like that. It's got that kind of dry fruit kind of sweetness to it at the front of the mouth. Moves on to the mid-tongue. And this is when the kind of malt kind of expands a little bit. So you start getting kind of slightly kind of fruity syrups that are associated with. So you get a slight kind of caramel to the malt. Not getting toffee, but getting caramel. So it's kind of lighter from that point of view. But you still have this kind of little kind of couple of levels of sweetness that's kind of slightly associated with the fruitiness. And again, it's more kind of dry fruit rather than kind of fresh red berries that we're getting in the kind of Otter Elf. So they are that kind of slightly kind of richer, slightly syrupy kind of feel to it, but not overly sweet and not sickeningly sweet or anything else. So it's just where you feel there's a kind of a maturity to the kind of beer. And I put that down to maybe having, a couple of different types of hops, and obviously kind of conditioning it a bit longer as well and things like that. And it just feels like a more mature beer. So yeah, on the basis of that, there's a nice front of the mouth. It's a really enjoyable mid tongue. It really is. It's really enjoyable. It is. And maybe get a slight hint of bitterness, just a very light hint of bitterness at the back end. Almost a clean finish. Maybe just a tiny little bit of a resistance just at the back end, at the back of the mouth. But for me, who enjoys bitterness, I wouldn't say it's bitter in any way, shape, or form at the back end. But other people that aren't, or maybe don't enjoy a kind of a strong bitter finish, then they might kind of construe this as being a bit bitter. But I wouldn't. So I'm saying there's maybe a slight resistance, but my palate's not really picking up that. But for people with different palates, they might say that it's a little bit. But right now, I would say it's really more to do with the front of the mouth and the mid tongue. For me, it's quite a clean finish at the back end, and the flavours kind of all kind of dissipate together. But just before it kind of moves to the kind of back of the mouth and the aftertaste, just as it's transitioning from the mid tongue, you just get ever so slightly little kind of light nutty accents. So you do. And overall, it's actually a very nice beer. And yeah, it's an enjoyable beer. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll watch me drink it. I mean, if it was crap or I didn't like it, then I wouldn't be sinking it the way I am. There's absolutely no resistance. It's just very. Can't be sitting about an empty glass, for God's sake, that'd be wrong, wouldn't it? But yeah, it's a nice beer, and it does feel just with the kind of the fruitiness, the light kind of. But I mean, it is still light fruitiness, it's not heavy fruitiness because, of course, it's a sessionable beer. But just with that kind of fruitiness, the sessionability, maybe little hints of nuts there, the little kind of slight levels of malt, it's definitely a Christmas beer. It definitely has that feel to it, same as the other two from the Otter Brewery. And I'll be totally honest, I like them all in their own different ways. The three beers are quite different. Even though they're kind of festive beers, they've all come at it from a different angle. You've got a kind of a red ale from the Otter Elf. You've got this as more of a kind of ruby ale. Maybe a wee bit lighter ruby ale. It's not a thick ruby ale, but it's a lighter ruby ale, but it is different. And then you have the kind of the richer ale from the kind of Otter Claws, which obviously was still sessionable to a degree, but was more richer in the body and the flavours and everything else. So 3 different beers in their own right, but every single one very, very enjoyable in their own right. Now, on that basis, what would I give this? Now, I'll be honest, when I did the Otter Elf, I said that I would have given it an 8, but I knocked half a point off in the price because of price. Now, Butcombe did give me a freebie and that type of stuff, and that's not going to influence my decision in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to enjoy them, but they're not going to influence me. This is based on the beer because at the end of the day, any other additional external factors, I mean, I'm not even going to bring in the hassle of getting this beer and the bit of the pain in the ass and everything else, because while it's happened to me, it doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. So if I factor that in, then it's a case as though it's maybe being unfair because adding my own kind of personal kind of bias and to a point of discrimination to it. So I'm not going to add my discrimination to my scoring, but I'm not also going to add my kind of positive bias because they've given me a free pack of beer. Not that I actually need a free pack of beer because, Jesus, there's 2 kegs down there for a start. Jesus God. And I was clearing up some boxes. So was it yesterday? And oh God, I found another 6 beers in one box and so many beers in another box. And I'm sort of thinking, hell, have I got all these beers? So I forget. I order beers and things like that, and I've done the reviews, and I forget about the rest, and I realise as I'm kind of clearing off the boxes, so I'm emptying the boxes to check the boxes out, and I'm like, oh bugger, did I have to buy multiples of this one? Because I've done the review ages ago, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh God, there's about 4 or 5 of this beer, and 6 of that beer, and all this kind of stuff. So, like I said, I don't really need beer. I'm here myself, for God's sake. Got it coming out my ears. But on the basis of that, I'm going to give this an 8 because I'm going to enjoy this just as much as I enjoyed the Outer Elf. The difference is that I can't knock any price points off. So I can't knock half a point off because of the price, because like I say, if it was down about 26, 25, my kind of cut-off point, that would be, that would have been fine. And the Outer Elf wouldn't have lost that half a point. But this is well below it. It's over 22, it's closer to 23, if not on 23. And, well, that's well under it. So I can't take that off. And I'm not going to allow my bias because that's unfair, because just because I've had these problems, if you ordered it, you might not have any of these problems at all. You think, what's he going on about? So then again, you might have these problems, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to say that you won't, but I also can't guarantee that you will. So you've got to look at it from that point of view. So I'm going to give this an 8 because it's actually a very nice beer. It really is. It's actually been nice. But they've all been nice. And I wouldn't turn around and say anyone was better than the other, because I enjoyed them all to a very similar level. They've all hit the right spot at the right time. And if I had the 3 kegs sitting in front of me, and I think, like, which one would you put in the machine? Right now, out of the 3, which would you put in the machine? I'd struggle, because I've enjoyed them all. And I would... anyone could be picked to go in. Just depends maybe what mood I'm in and maybe what I fancy at the time. And it's really just down to that, because anyone could be picked to be put in there. I wouldn't turn around and say definitely, well, that would go in before that one. And I would think, well, it just depends at the time what I would pick, because they're all, to a degree, just as good as each other. So yeah, so it's been a good Christmas period and I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, I would definitely say for me, the future has to be the kegs. The kegs is the way to go. I mean, obviously I'll still do bottles and things like that over the year and things like that, and I'll do kegs over the year, but especially at Christmas time, whether I can get Christmas beers or whether I can just get other kegs and that, I would rather do kegs at the festive period, whether they're actual Christmas or festive beers, or there may be just beers available all year round, but I haven't done them because it's just more enjoyable to do the kegs, especially at this time of year, rather than all these crappy bloody Christmas beers in the bottle. So yeah, that's the kind of the epiphany that I've achieved and got over this kind of Christmas period, and I hope I've kind of maybe changed your kind of way of thinking and kind of looking at Christmas beers, because I'm sure a lot of you have had the same disappointments that I've had. And you go and buy them and you spend quite a lot of money, because again, they bump up the prices and things like that. You buy these Christmas beers, you think, that's undrinkable. I mean, I've got to admit, last year, the amount of ones that just, a couple of sips, that's fucking piss, and me ranting and raving, and it's rest of the bottle, and it was down just down the sink. I mean, it was a regular occurrence. It was just, rinse and repeat, Whereas, a lot more pleasurable. So, it's 4.1%. It's a 5 litre keg. Sometimes it can take a bit of time to arrive. It's from Butcombe. It's called Christmas. I know. I could have glanced over that. I've tried to behave. It's 8 out of 10. It's very nice. I would recommend it. Thanks for watching. Cheers. And bye for now.